Hi, it's Alistair at Electric Scotland. This is me doing my introduction to my newsletter for February the 15th, 2019. I have to say there's a lot of fantastic stuff in this week. It's one of the best weeks I think I've had for some time on readability and stuff. Obviously I want to wish you all a happy Valentine's Day. So I hope you treat your other half to a good dinner and whatever. Okay, so here's the news stories for this week. The first story is here's why it would be madness to stay in a customs union with the EU. It says a customs union with the EU means that the UK would not have its own trade policy. Therefore, we would not be able to strike preferential agreements affecting trading goods or services with other countries. We would not be able to set our own tariffs to suit the UK economy, and we would not be a full member of the World Trade Organization. So, I mean, if we don't do a Brexit, what's the whole point, really? Okay, the next story is Clan McEwen aims to end 500-year chief wait. It says an actor and writer from the Borders is hoping to be recognised as the clan's first chief in more than 500 years. Sir John McEwen, who lives near Duns, said he had no particular qualifications to take up the role other than his love of the clan. Next story is French firms start to panic about no-deal Brexit. As many as 30,000 French companies export to the UK and 3,300 have British-based operations, according to government figures. And then Dutch business fears Netherlands has much to lose from Brexit. The Netherlands, seen as one of Theresa May's closest European allies, has a lot to lose, particularly with a disorderly departure. Then why seeking an extension to Article 50 would be a terrible idea. But let us look at the legalities both of how an Article 50 extension can be granted and the legal effects of such an extension. Interesting wee article, that. UK signs post-Brexit trade continuity deal with Switzerland. It says the UK reached an agreement with Switzerland that will allow it to continue trade without any additional tariffs after it leaves the European Union. And the next story is a Scottish laird has called for public funding to help conserve an A-listed building. St Peter's Seminary near Cardross in Argyll and Bute closed more than 40 years ago and is now a perfect partial ruin. There's a whole ton of pictures actually on that one. It's on the BBC and there's a 4-minute video to go with it, so you might like to have a real perusal of that. Then the final story I have for you this week is Scotland to hold student space event for the first time. So the National Student Space Conference is to be held in Scotland for the first time. So good on Scotland. Now, Electric Canadian. Continue with some of the regular magazines I've been putting up. I've added the Canadian Archive reports for 1895. The Canadian Annual Review of Public Affairs is up for, for 1918, so the last year of the World War I. Canadian Fisherman, I've added volume 10, that's 1923 issue. And the Canadian Horticulturalist, I've added volume 13 for 1890. And Canadian Life and Resources. I put up volume 5, which was 1907. And the Canadian Law Times, I've added volume 9 for 1882. So these are all the regular publications. I've also added temporary work on the Canadian Pacific Railway. I just found this article was by Mr. J. Grant McGregor and was done in 1900. And I found it in some industry and shipbuilding magazine. More of that later. Early Scottish influence in North America. This was a lecture delivered before the Caledonian Society of Montreal in St Andrew's House on the 7th of January 1898 by Farquhar Stewart McLennan. And then Canadian Nationality, The Cry of Labour and Other Essays by W. Patrick Hathaway in 1906. And finally for Electric Canadian, I've got a Conrad Black. It says, How Blessed I Have Been to Know These Two Men. And it's a bit of a write-up on each of them, so you might be interested. One of them's the Tim Hortons owner. Okay, so Electric Scotland. I've got the Scottish Review. I've managed to find volumes 18, 19 and 20 for you to read. So these are now up, and there's a ton of reading in these ones. Again, if you go to the index page, you'll get a list of all the stories and everything in there. And basically, you don't need to read the whole lot, but you know, if you get a bit of a title, it tweaks your interest, just scroll down to that particular page and have a read of the article. There's a really good stuff in there. Then Clan Leslie Society of New Zealand and Australia. I got in 4 of their newsletters to plug gaps in our archive for them for 2018 and 2019. So thanks to Barry Leslie for sending those in. Caledonian Sketches. I've got to highlight this one because it's brilliant in my view. Basically, it's one big sketch on a tour through Scotland in 1807. And it's memory rights about 130 odd pages. And there's a whole ton of stuff which is just fascinating. I actually was so fascinated, I read the whole thing in a oneer. I think it took me about 3 hours to read the whole lot. But it was great. And I actually extracted one of the articles, or one of the chapters, when he was talking about Scottish education. Then I found Transactions of Institution of Engineers and Shipbuilders of Scotland. And this is one of the volumes that I read, is where I picked out that article for the Canadian Pacific Railroad. But it's basically, I found 22 volumes from 1866 to 1908, which I've added to the foot of our page on the Shipbuilders of Aberdeen. I've also added a couple of videos from Stan to that page, as well as 3 of his poems, which also have a link to an audio file, so you can listen to him reading them. So some really good stuff there. Brigadier McIntosh of Borlum. It's from the Celtic Magazine. I've extracted a PDF file. The Chronicles of Lana, 1272 to 1345. It's translated with notes by the Right Honourable Sir Herbert Maxwell, Baronet, in 1913. There are many references to this publication throughout the site, so I thought it was time to make a copy of it available for you, and you can read this at, and I've given you the link. Then interview with Stan Bruce. It's about concrete ships, and you can listen to his 6-minute 30 interview with him and learn more about concrete ships. The sound file is under the picture of him with Mark Stephen, who's holding the mic basically. And to go with that, BBC's Out of Doors radio programme in February 2019 says Ewan brings us all the news from this year's National Farmers Union of Scotland annual conference. It's a 1 hour 30-minute recording and it's in wave format and includes a sketch of the beaver in Scotland. Basically, Stan Bruce's interview took about 6 minutes of that, and I didn't know where it was, so I recorded the whole thing so I could extract Stan Bruce's interview. But I found it really interesting, so I thought I'd put the whole the whole program up, which is about an hour and a half. Caledonian Medical Journal, including an article on old Gaelic medical manuscripts, and it's by Dr. McKay in 1904. And I was so interested in the article on the medical manuscripts, the Gaelic ones, that I just thought I would include that for you to have a wee read at. There are other copies of the Caledonian Medical Journal around, so if you enjoy reading that, you might like to find some more. Then the Caledonian. I found 2 copies of this magazine, which contain some excellent information on clan societies in America and lots of other interesting information. I really enjoyed reading both of those, and again there's lots of little stories in them. It's a bit like a Reader's Digest, you might say. There's lots of little stories, and a lot of them are quite interesting. Vagabond Songs and Ballads of Scotland. So Vagabond Songs is, in fact, a meticulously edited and more genuinely traditional collection than any of the other various derivatives and repetitive volumes of the same type. They're very complimentary about it, I must confess, if you read the reviews. So I've added that to our Robert Ford page, because it was Robert Ford that put it together. The Edinburgh Military Tattoo, A Salute to Australia in 2005. I've got an embedded video of the military tattoo, but for some reason these video links for the tattoo keep going down, and so I was looking for one to replace one that had stopped working, and that's when I found the one on Australia, and I had a wee listen to it, and actually there's some great stuff in there, especially the Australian stuff. So I thought I would give you a link, and I've added that into my community page so you can enjoy watching that. Then Scottish Education. This is an extract from the Tour Through Scotland in the Caledonian Sketches, which I mentioned before, dated in 1807. And I was so struck with what it said about education, because obviously education is an area that is not doing well in Scotland at the moment. And I just thought it'd be interesting to see, for you to read what it was like back in 1807. And then finally, I've got Best Newfangled Family Tree Up. It's the March 2019 Section B issue. Then the story this week is basically some extracts from the Caledonian Family Magazine of 1912. It's the ones that I've got 2 volumes of that up, which I mentioned previously, but I thought for a change I would just extract some wee articles from these to give you a bit of a flavour of what you can read. Essentially it's an American production, but there's a lot about Scotland in it, Australia, New Zealand, and especially Canada, and lots of really interesting news stories with it as well. And one of them, of course, is the Titanic. So I thought I'd just bring you that. So quite a few wee stories there, and I hope you're going to enjoy that. So all in all, I'm very pleased with what I've got up this week. I think tons of great reading material, that's for sure. Okay, well, as I say, I hope you have a good Valentine's Day, and weekend's almost here, so I hope you have a good weekend to come, and maybe that's when you'll take the wife out for dinner or something. Or take your husband out for dinner, depending. Okay, well anyway, that's it. Thanks for listening, and look forward to talking to you next week. Cheers!